keys are to the glory days at the stick. From who's got it better than us to brick by brick. It's always the 49ers way, from off-season to game day. Yeah, we talk back. It's the 49ers cutback.
It's 49ers Cutback Podcast time. Welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking about Ray Ray's role, and that's Ray Ray McCloud. What will his role be in San Francisco? A lot of the Ray Ray McCloud noise and conversation has stopped once the 49ers selected Danny Gray. But we're here to talk about Ray Ray and how he's going to make an impact on the 2022 season.
Regardless of what you think about Danny Gray, regardless of what you think the Niners are going to use Danny Gray as, the reality is that Danny Gray is an unproven rookie. That's the reality. Unproven rookie who wasn't taken in the first 3 rounds, which means he's going to have to earn his role. He's going to have to earn
taken
things.
at the end of the third round.
End of the third. My apologies there. Almost the fourth.
You just
almost
know someone would have criticized.
They would have. It was basically a 4th round pick. I'm pretty sure it was a compensatory pick. Just saying.
You're right.
Just saying. Wasn't an early 3rd round pick or anything. Nope. He's going to have to prove that role and earn his spot on this roster and earn playing time. And he's got a guy and a veteran above him in Ray Ray McCloud, and that's done a lot of good, positive things in other places, Pittsburgh specifically, that were impressive and incredible, and the special teams aspect that he adds as well. So let's dive into this a little bit more. What could his role look like? What would the 49ers do with him? And before we get too far into it, make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit that notification bell and let us know what you think his role is going to be. But Ray Ray McCloud, how is Kyle Shanahan going to use him? And will it rhyme with another guy's name, Failer Gabriel?
Ooh, I like that. I'm guessing you're meaning Taylor Gabriel.
Or maybe I'm teasing something for later. We'll see. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I think when it comes to Ray Ray's role, I think the first conversation I want to go back to is Kyle Shanahan talking at the state of the franchise, where he's talking about Ray Ray McCloud, and he says that he wanted Ray Ray to come in and play wide receiver. It was the first, clear sign that the 49ers didn't go out and get Ray Ray McCloud for his special teams, but went out and got because Kyle Shanahan had a specific role for him. Is he going to contribute on special teams? Of course he is. But Kyle Shanahan has been looking for this role as well, just like he's been looking for Danny Gray. Danny Gray is going into that Marquise Goodwin role, but he's been looking for this. He went out and got Richie James. He got other guys that had a lot of versatility that could run the fly sweeps, could get the ball in the backfield. You've seen this happen from Deebo Samuel. Now, when it comes to Ray Ray, he's going to be taking on the role at which Brandon Ayuk doesn't really fit. Brandon Ayuk, they thought, was going to be able to do the same things that Deebo did, all the fly sweeps, all the quick screens, and there's still going to be an avenue for him to do those occasionally. But with Ray Ray McCloud, he's going to be asked to do those a lot. There's also another part of his game that's going to be fun. He's going to line up in the backfield at sometimes. Sometimes he's going to be in the backfield. He can run RPO. He can run read option. He can do a lot of things with Trey Lance. You can also motion him out and create mismatches. So what it does is that personnel groupings start to get a little less determined than they normally are pre-snap, which makes it difficult for the defense. So I think that's part of his role. The other thing I've really been watching is the things that Trey Lance does well as far as throwing the outs, throwing the corner routes, plays outside the numbers. That's something that Ray Ray McCloud is really good at. That's something he excelled at, in fact, with the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I think that is part of Ray Ray's role with the San Francisco 49ers.
100% yes. 100% yes, Ant. He does all of those things extremely well. He does operate outside the numbers very well also. Something that Taylor Gabriel wasn't really known for as much. Taylor Gabriel was more middle of the field guy and stretching the field sort of guy. But there were similarities in terms of how I believe both these guys are going to be utilized because they're similar in size, similar in speed. I'd say Ray Ray is a little bit faster than Taylor Gabriel at his peak, and definitely a much better runner with the football in his hand, and that's where their roles will start to differentiate and differ. Gabriel was utilized much more as a seam option over the middle of the field, areas like that, where I think Danny Gray may operate a little bit better. Ray Ray is actually going to be a guy who does a little bit more of the wide back sort of stuff, even though he doesn't have the big physical presence and what's the right word here? Not emboldening or shadowing kind of presence, and where he's physically dominant with the football in his hands. He's more elusive, electric with the ball in his hands. He's got great vision. He sees things very well. He runs after the catch extremely well. He's actually a great addition to the Yak Bros. I mean, he really is a great Yak Bro to add into this mixture here and makes it a little bit more dynamic. But I think it's going to be the way, like you said, they utilize him. You can come into situations and go early in the season, a 5 wide receiver look with maybe it's 4 wide receivers and George Kittle out on the football field with Ray Ray and Deebo out there, and either one of those guys can motion into the backfield And all of a sudden now you can even have a set where George Kittle motions in and lines up sort of like in an H-back sort of fullback positioning with Juwan Jennings out there as well. And you have some great blocking guys with a guy who can run the football in his hands very well out in space. And you get them into odd packages and odd situations, odd formations. And that puts teams in bad positions and bad matchups. And then, like you said, what does Kyle Shanahan love to do offensively? Motion. So now you can use motion to force certain players to match up on certain guys in your defense and really give away looks. Because you may want to sit in zone all you want, and the minute someone goes in motion, well, maybe you had a man look, and now he motions across this field or motions into an odd spot in the offense, and it's like, I gotta get to my place now. I gotta show my hand, and now things become a lot easier for Trey Lance. I think what Kyle Shanahan did was brilliant in bringing a guy like Ray Ray and adding in a guy like Danny Gray as well. Is you give yourself a lot of variety in ways that you can set things up, and I think the development of Juwan Jennings now puts you in an even better spot because you can have Juwan Jennings out there, and you can line him up closer in line in the slot, and you don't lose much in the run blocking aspect of your game, and so now teams have to be more honest about what they show you. They can't disguise things as much and as heavily because you could get yourself burned if you do so.
Yeah, and they went from having 3 guys in the Yak Bros that could create with the ball in their hands after the catch to having 5 guys, because now you can have Ray Ray McCloud and Danny Gray to that as well. That's not something Juwan Jennings does at a high level. He still will get you 4 or 5 yards after the catch. He'll fall forward for first downs. That's what he does. But this Ray Ray role is also going to include something else, and that is, you brought up the motion. It's the window dressing, right? That's one thing that Kyle Shanahan likes to do. The amount of motion he does is tremendous. And some of that is just to get defenders to move a little bit, to move their eyes, move them physically out of a certain spot. Once you get all these guys moving, it changes each one of their roles. So creating certain situations with Ray Ray McCloud, making him a dynamic player that can do a bunch of things, will also keep the defense intrigued and engaged in what he's doing. So by doing that, it takes their eyes off of other people like a Juwan Jennings, or eyes off of a Danny Gray or Elijah Mitchell in the backfield. That's the whole role. We already know they're going to pay extreme attention to Deebo Samuel, but giving them something else to focus on makes it a little bit more stressful. If you're worried about Ray Ray McCloud going and motioning and running a fly sweep, and you see Juwan Jennings and George Kittle out there to block, and next thing you know, you put your focus on him, and maybe you lose your focus on Deebo Samuel for a second, and he's running a counter play back the other way. You create tremendous struggles for the defense. To where your eyes going to be disciplined on? Are they going to be disciplined on Deebo Samuel? Are they going to be disciplined on George Kittle? Or are they going to be disciplined on Ray Ray McCloud? I think it just puts more stress on a defense. The more stress you put on a defense, the more opportunities to create for the offense. That is Ray Ray's role. He's got to expand it. He's got to be able to help Kyle Shanahan create more dangerous situations with simple motion. There may be plays he's not even a part of the play, but you know what? The defense has to focus on him.
And here's the other thing, too, is what you could see is early on with Ray Ray's role, a Travis Benjamin-esque responsibility in terms of just taking the top off the defense and running certain things to make teams respect it. But the other thing that teams are going to have to respect is what he can do with the ball in his hand. Something very similar we saw with Kendrick Bourne. Kendrick Bourne when he was in this offense. When guys went down and guys went out and Deebo wasn't there and they had to use him in those fly sweep motions, teams didn't pay attention. They laughed. They laughed, pointed, and said, he's not getting the ball. Don't worry about it. Yeah, he's going in motion for a fly sweep. They're not actually handing it to him. It makes you limited in your offense because now teams know to key away from things like that. With Ray Ray, you could start him off one way, and the minute you start adding in new things into his repertoire, teams have scouting reports. They know what his skill set is, and they know what he can do with the ball in his hands. You have to respect it. You can't point and laugh or disregard said motion or activity. You have to take into account what he's been in other places, and then also remember where he's at now and how Kyle Shanahan can utilize that, and that plays into a lot of things. There's a lot of head and mental games that Kyle Shanahan can play with all of these different pieces. With Deebo, with B.A., with George Kittle, and now with Ray Ray McCloud. All of those guys can do motion-type actions and get the ball and do something with the ball in their hands after a handoff or a fly sweep look or carrying the ball out of the backfield in some way, shape, or form. All of them have demonstrated they can. Some significantly better than others, but they all can. And if you don't give those guys the respect they deserve when they get the ball in their hands, they can make you pay.
Yeah, and the 49ers just went to having 3 legit deep threats. Brandon Ayuk, Ray Ray McCloud, and of course, Danny Gray. Thank you.
Gotcha.
Those 3 guys right there will make it so defenses have to respect the deep pass. And Trey Lance has proven already, even in a short time, that he can take advantage of those throws.
It's pretty.
But now you have a player, instead of having guys that you had like Trent Sherfield, who had the top end speed, but wasn't able to create consistently underneath. You have a guy like Ray Ray that can run all those routes in the route tree and be able to get open underneath. That can kind of bridge the gap between a Kendrick Bourne role and the role by Trent Sherfield. So I think he's a more dynamic player. He fits in better with what the 49ers want to do. And we talked about this for a long time in the offseason. The Niners need to go get themselves a shifty wide receiver that can make plays in the open field. And when you get a guy that's really good at punt returning and really good at kick returning, that means he can make people miss in the open field. I'm excited about Ray Ray McCloud in this offense and how Kyle Shanahan plans to use him. I think really the sky is the limit. And I think he's going to ease the role for Brandon Ayuk and these other guys. But now, whenever any of the 5 wide receivers and George Kittle go in motion, they could get the ball in a fly sweep. They could be going downfield. They could be blocking. You just don't know what you're going to get, which means it makes it a lot more difficult. There's no real reads that you can key on as a defense. You just got to play it straight. And when you do that, you might be a half second late on a run play or a half second late on a whip route. Next thing you know, that player's catching the ball and running into the end zone. Man, that's difficult. And sometimes it's not about confusing a defense, but just making them hesitate for a half second.
Make them think. If they're thinking, they're not acting, they're not reacting. If they're not reacting, they're a step or two behind. And sometimes that's all you need. You just need a step. You just need a little window. And what has Elijah Mitchell shown, Ant? Little windows. Little windows do big things for Elijah Mitchell as a runner. You give him a little tiny crease, and he finds a way to sneak through it and take what looks like a 1 to 2 yard gain or potentially a tackle for a loss and turns it somehow into a 5 to 20 yard run. You're just sitting there going, how did you do that? You watch the film back and you're like, I don't even understand this read. And then you watch the All-22 film and you're like, holy crap, this man is a visionary. This man's vision is off the charts for a rookie coming into the league. It's incredible. Ray Ray's going to allow you to do that with all the window dressing you can add in and all of the skill sets and talent. And you know what? We didn't even harp on the special teams aspect. And we went from, listen, I mean, this is the reality. Last year, that back end of that wide receiving core, suspect. It was suspect. It's better than previous years, still suspect. This year, the back end of your wide receiving core is a young wide receiver you drafted at the end of the 3rd round with that compensatory pick in Danny Gray, and a guy who was wide receiver 3 with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel good.
I feel a lot better about this wide receiver room, and I feel really good about all their skill sets and what Kyle Shanahan wants to do. But like you said, Ray Ray McCloud's ability to help this return game is going to be significant because you've seen them have to go to Deebo Samuel and say, hey, Deebo, go make something happen in these games. I mean, they've had Trenton Cannon and he made a couple of plays. Brandon Ayuk got better as a punt returner during the season. But a lot of times they were counting on Mohamed Sanu. And then when Sanu wasn't available, then it became Travis Benjamin. So right now they're going to have Ray Ray McCloud. He's going to be able to advance that return game. He's going to hopefully be able to give them better field position, which is going to help the offense, which in turn helps the defense. Overall, it's going to be better. They improved a third of the game by getting Ray Ray McCloud, and they improved another third. So he's going to improve 2/3 of this game with the addition of McCloud. I'm excited about him on special teams as long as he can hold on to the football, and that's something we're going to have to watch during training camp to see if Ray Ray can start holding on to this football. I think they can help him get better at fumbling, not fumbling, in fact. And if they do, I think he's going to make a huge impact on this team because there's just a variety of different ways they can use him. I don't think people are really looking at him and understanding how vast his role can be in Kyle Shanahan's offense because he has a really extensive skill set. Being able to use all of his skills is what Kyle Shanahan has to do, optimizing his players' talent. And I think that's what Ray Ray's counting on. When he came to Santa Clara, he said, this is an offense I feel like I can do really well in. He's expecting to come to Kyle Shanahan and this offense and for this to help blow him up to where he can get a huge contract next year. He's motivated. Kyle Shanahan's motivated to use him in the offense. This is going to be an exciting season.
It's going to be electric, Anton, if the 49ers do, in fact. You need someone to help Ray Ray work on his fumbling. Let's say you got a coaching staff. You're hitting some good stuff here. I know a guy. Give Coach Collins a shout out. He will make sure he tucks the ball away. And we'll chase him down every time he does any sort of swim move with the football, Ant. He'll also hurdle players.
Yeah, that's true. Coach Collins was an interesting guy as far as when it came to fumbling. No offensive coach likes turning over the football. Coach Collins may have taken it to extremes, running down the field and punching the ball out from the kid as he swam over someone.
And scored.
But Yes, they do need to get it high and tight, get the 4 points of pressure, make sure this ball does not go anywhere. No turnovers, Ray. Flip the field. I think he's going to be big for this 49ers offense and special teams.
Going to be huge. Cutback crew, let us know what you think that role would be. Did we sway you one way or the other? Are you starting to lean a direction now with Ray? Maybe you weren't before. We want to know. Comment down below. And then once you've done that, make sure you like and subscribe if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell. That way we can talk to you a little bit live, post one, even if we just do a video on it, on what Ray Ray's doing in camp and what that may mean for said role for Ray Ray McCloud.
Yeah, it's going to be a fun time during training camp. Let's see how they start using him in preseason. Of course, we won't know until week 1 what that actual role is going to look like.
You mean they're not going to show it in the preseason?
I sure would hope not. Yeah, but I do think...
Hold on a second. So you mean to tell me that if we record unscripted 11-11s again, we're not giving anything away?
No. I mean, you're
talking...
Sorry,
scripted 11.
You're literally talking about Kyle Shanahan. The moment you're allowed to record, he knows you're recording.
Yeah.
The moment you're not allowed to record, that's when he does his fun stuff at practice. He's not going to do any fun stuff in preseason because why show it? The only time you show it is if you want to put something on film that you want people to have to respect. So if we see something interesting from Ray, it means Kyle Shanahan wanted you to see it. So do with it what you will.
Absolutely.
Enjoy those moments of getting ready. So Chicago, hello, figuring out what Ray Ray McCloud's going to be doing.
Have fun with that. Ray Ray McCloud getting ready to take care of the Chicago Bears, unlike N'Keal Harry. We'll see you on the next one, Cutback crew and the faithful. And until that time, stay safe.
Remember, the right way is always the 49ers way.